is 7 p.m. Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. I will call the city council meeting to order. Clerk Everett, will you please call the roll?
Councilperson Huckabee.
Here.
Councilperson Johnson.
Here.
Councilperson Lesko here.
Here.
Councilperson Schultz.
Here.
President Jekyll.
Here. Thank you. Item 3, public hearings. Tonight we have a public hearing relating to the adoption of the Jefferson County Hazard Mitigation Plan in the city of Fort Atkinson. I will ask the fire chief to give a presentation first.
Good evening. Tonight we're asking for city council action to adopt the 2025 Jefferson County Hazard Mitigation Plan. This step is required to maintain our eligibility for federal hazard mitigation grant funding in the future. Jefferson County officially adopted this in April of 2025, and each city and village in the municipality or municipalities in the county are also required to adopt it. Without adopting, Fort Atkinson would become ineligible for FEMA grant programs in the future for 5 years. This is a federally mandated document that assesses local risks such as flooding, severe storms, and weather. The plan outlines strategies to reduce and eliminate long-term risks to people, infrastructure, and property. This is not a recurring annual ordinance. Adoption of the hazard mitigation plan is required once every 5 years as part of a federal mandate. Fort Atkinson did participate in the planning of this. We identified our key infrastructure and gave them an updated list of that. In addition, this keeps us eligible for grants for stormwater system upgrades, emergency power systems, and flood prevention. There's no financial impact to the city on this, although future projects may require some matching funds. Be happy to answer any questions.
We're gonna just move into the public hearing portion. Council members can ask questions when this item is up on the agenda later. So I will open the floor to anyone who has any comments relating to this portion only. Other public comment will be addressed later. Call for a first call for public hearing. Second call for public hearing. Third and final call for the public hearing on the County Hazardous Mitigation Plan. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Item 4 is public comment. The city council will receive comments from city residents. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anyone wishing to speak is required to sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon: name, address, and subject matter, and contact information. No action will be taken on any public comments unless the item is also elsewhere on the agenda. A note for those following on Zoom, if you wish to speak, please raise your virtual hand as the chat box is not monitored during the meeting, and those must remain muted until recognized to speak. We will start on the list of people signed up with Steve Benson.
Hello, my name is Stephen Benson, and I live at 202 Memorial Drive here in Fort Atkinson. I have been a resident of Fort Atkinson since 1984. I am here just for my comments on the relating to the Pledge of Allegiance being added to your meetings. I am for it. As a political council, for our city, it would show our community an act of patriotism and unity. It was brought up, I was here about the end of June at the June meeting, and people said they should have a choice. That is true. By omitting it, you do not give the people who wanted to say it a choice. You're basically forcing it upon them not to be able to say it. So I think you should change that and allow the people a choice, and the people who do not want to say it can not, that is their choice. If you vote against it, what are you teaching our community and our children, especially the high school kids who come here as a requirement for their political science or whatever that class is called? What is next? Eliminating the Star Spangled Banner or America the Beautiful at baseball during the 7th inning stretch? If so, the next generation won't even know the Star Spangled Banner or the Pledge of Allegiance. Comments were made, you're putting a person by not saying it in a predicament. How often have you heard in a baseball game of 40,000 people where somebody sits down and doesn't stand for the Star Spangled Banner or take off their hat? I have never heard of one being harassed by the other crowd. That meeting in June, I like Bruce Johnson's response. He votes for his constituents, not his personal beliefs. I believe that people in this town are for it, based upon the number of responses we had at that meeting who stood up. Therefore, I urge you to put aside your personal beliefs, vote to approve the Pledge of Allegiance, and recite it before every parish or city council. And it is a sign of patriotism and unity for the whole area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Bill Camplin.
Bill Camplin, 18 South Water Street West, Fort Atkinson. I've been here 1 year shorter than the previous speaker, 40 years. And I'm going to depart after I make my little thing because I don't want to put the evil on anybody that doesn't like what I say or whatever. First off, I'm very uncomfortable if I was a member of the city council to be dictated to as to what I have to say. And I think this is going to pass anyway. Given that, in the last meeting, there was several things. Mr. Johnson pointed out that one of his influences was the disrespect that was shown to one of the people that was speaking here in favor of it. And I couldn't put that together. See, when you're voting on something like this, those acts of disrespect are that's a separate issue between you and whoever said it. But you had a right to say it. Another comment that was made last time was, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. I've been in Wisconsin my whole life. I don't know where somewhere else is. I only know this state, this community for 40 years, and I've had a very good life. No denying that. And made a lot of friends, hopefully very few enemies. And there's nothing basically wrong with living here. I don't know what it's like to live in another country. So when people say that, when they say go live somewhere else, that gets my dander up, because what are you really saying? Again, it's questioning everybody's patriotism on that. And some of the other countries we could learn from. There's things that are going on in this world in other democracies that are very educational and very informative as we all push forward to try to, create a world where there really is some equality for all the people in it. A long way from that. A third assertion that this Pledge of Allegiance would bring people together was that it would bring people together. I don't see any of the things that are going on in this world right now where people are insisting on you have to say this or you have to do that. That doesn't bring people together. So I don't see that happening. I believe it will pass this evening. And my concern, and I said, I'm putting myself in the shoes if I were a council member. It's not an unheard of thing. And I demonstrated, I was uncomfortable with a couple of things in the Pledge of Allegiance, to say nothing of the fellow Francis Bellamy who first wrote it. I have a problem with pledging allegiance to a flag because that's, to me, is idolatry. And at the same time, I had a problem. This is just me, if I'm saying something, I want it to be from me. I want it to be honest. And when President Eisenhower inserted, at that time, oh, my 3 minutes is up. And I was gonna I'll just skip that. And I'd like to have a permission to extend and give, if I was standing up and had to say a pledge, what we're really talking about is having fealty to this country and its Constitution. And I thought, well, then if I was standing, I might not say the pledge that way because I wouldn't be comfortable. I want to be honest. And I came up with some variety of things that I could say that would be honest.
Bill, I'm gonna ask you your three.
Can I just say, can I just give the first one?
I'll let
it
you,
is-
I'll let you have the first
It
one.
doesn't make me right or anything like that, but where's the one? I pledge my allegiance to a government where one person, one vote is the foundation and of our enhanced freedom, where it is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Adam Thompson.
Hello, City Council. My name is Adam Thompson. I live at 365 Ramesh Avenue here in Fort. I'm here again today to speak on the agenda item proposing the addition of the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of each council session. As I've shared before, I served in the U.S. Army, including 2 years in combat in Iraq. And even the military and institution rooted in discipline and service, we're never required to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. We did an oath, as you all did. We occasionally saluted the flag and sang the Army song. But the Army respected our constitutional right against coerced speech. Many who support this proposal have spoken from a place of pride and respect for the loved ones who have served. I actually did. I honor that intention too, but I believe this measure, though symbolic, moves in the opposite direction of what many veterans actually fought for. True patriotism isn't compelled, it's chosen. Asking for a public pledge demonstration, especially in a government setting, kind of sends that message that conformity is expected rather than freedom respected. So today, I respectfully ask the council honor veterans not by symbolic gestures or virtue signaling, but by upholding the very liberties we serve to defend. Vote down this agenda item and let's begin each meeting with, the business of the city. United in purpose, but not divided by performance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have John Kellen.
My name is John Callan. I live at 522 Robert Street, Fort Atkinson. I have two things to add to what I've already said in opposition to this proposed ordinance. First, Mr. Jekyll, you stated at the previous meeting that while you are president of the City Council, no one will be required to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I admire your integrity in this matter, but I think you've missed an important point. If the amendment is adopted, those members of the council and anyone else also attending a council meeting or president of council meeting who may decline to recite the pledge will inevitably be judged for their non-participation by at least some of those people who do participate. Does such non-participation mean that these people are not, or at any rate are less loyal, patriotic Americans? If so, how? This kind of stigmatizing is not merely political, it's simply human nature. I fail then to see how passing the amendment will bring our divided polity, our divided American society closer together in any way. Second, and on a related topic, I note a fact that is perhaps already familiar to you and one that Mr. Camplin alluded to. The words "under God" are not in the original text of the Pledge of Allegiance, but were added in 1954 through an act of Congress, a Republican-controlled Congress, at the apex of, well, McCarthyism. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Miles Alley.
Miles Alley, 407 Council Street. Good evening, members of the council and fellow citizens. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to express my strong support for including the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of our city council meetings. The pledge is more than a ritual. It's a 31-word affirmation of the values that unite us: liberty, justice, and unity. It takes less than 10 seconds to say, yet it reminds us of the sacrifices made for the freedoms we often take for granted. Starting our meetings with these words is a small gesture, but one with deep meaning. This is not about political symbolism, forcing patriotism, or infringing on anyone's rights. Participation in the pledge is entirely voluntary. No one is required to recite it, and no one is judged for choosing not to. This isn't about compliance, it's about principle. And it's also about respect, respect for our country, our veterans, and our shared identity as citizens. That's why it's especially troubling to witness what happened at the August 2024 City Council meeting, when Mr. House was shut down while reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. He wasn't making a political statement. He wasn't being disruptive. He was honoring fallen soldiers of Fort Atkinson, members of this very community, who gave their lives in service to our nation. To silence a citizen during a moment like that is not just disrespectful. It sends the message that patriotism, even when solemn and sincere, has no place in this room. I respectfully but firmly disagree. If someone feels uncomfortable or worries about being judged as unpatriotic, that is a feeling. And while feelings deserve acknowledgement, they are not a reason to suppress the voices of others, especially those who speak with humility and reverence for lives lost in service. This isn't about exclusion, it's about inclusion of our shared values, of our history, and of the freedoms that allow us to speak, dissent, and even disagree in a forum like this. I urge you to vote yes to adding the pledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have John Beauchamp.
Hi, I'm John Beauchamp. I live at 307 South 3rd Street East here in Fort. I'm here today to speak in strong support of adding the Pledge of Allegiance back to the meeting agenda. I think it's no secret that we live in a very increasingly polarizing world. The right seems to be getting further right. The left seems to get further left. People just get stuck in their opinions, and often even civil and peaceful debate, we forget that us as Americans have so much more in common than what divides us. The Pledge of Allegiance isn't about politics, it's about unity. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of a meeting, or even when we sing the national anthem at the start of a sports game, it's a moment where all of us, no matter where we are on the political spectrum, what we believe in, what we don't believe in, we can put aside that divisiveness, put aside that rhetoric, and remember that we're one nation and we're all in this. We will all want what's best for our own community. Starting the meeting this way would instill this as a subtle reminder that would hang over the meeting and hang over debate and encourage civil and a more productive discussion. Additionally, as some of the others have mentioned, this is a small but powerful way to honor our neighbors here in Fort who have served our country in uniform, and it's a respectful reminder of the sacrifices that they have made to protect our freedoms. This very city council actually exists because of the freedoms that are guaranteed under our Constitution, specifically the 10th Amendment, which reserves powers not delegated to the federal government, to the states, and to the people. People, that's us, the citizens here. This pledge honors our Constitution and our system of governing that allows people like us to elect leaders such as you all here to govern us. Just because you don't believe in the current administration maybe, or the current way the country is going, doesn't mean you shouldn't believe in America. This isn't about forcing you to say something that you don't want to say. It isn't about forcing someone to say something they don't believe in. If someone doesn't believe in it, they don't have to say it. And I don't ever know of a situation wherein someone is going to judge them for that. But by prohibiting those of us here who do wish to say it, you're taking away our choice and you're choosing to forget why you're here and who you serve. Restoring the Pledge of Allegiance to the meeting agenda is the right move. It serves as a reminder of who you serve, it sets the tone of the meeting, and it reminds us that we as Americans have so much more in common than what separates us. So I encourage you all to please vote to add the pledge back to the meeting agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I cannot read the name. It's from Hillcrest Drive.
Good evening. My name is Mateo and I live at 506 Hillcrest Drive. I'm really glad to have this chance to speak with you tonight. Before every scout meeting, I stand with my scout mates, put my hand over my heart, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. For me, it's more than just words. It's a moment when I feel connected to something bigger than myself, to our country, to our community, and to all the people who make it special. It reminds me of the freedoms we have and the brave people who protect them. Lately, I've noticed something during our city council meetings that makes me feel confused and sad. When I see our leaders, the people who we look up to in the city, not participating, it makes me wonder why. I believe the Pledge of Allegiance is a powerful symbol of unity. It is a way for all of us, no matter our differences, to come together and show respect for the values that hold our community together. It reminds us that we are all part of the same team, working for the good of Fort Atkinson. That's why I'm here today. I respectfully ask the City Council to consider leading by example and saying the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of future meetings. I truly believe it would be a meaningful way to start our public discussions, showing our commitment to our community and country. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Lori Wogelmuth.
Lori Walgamuth, 307 East Milwaukee Avenue. Why we should say the pledge. It shows respect for our country, like helping someone elderly or handicapped to cross the street or opening the door for someone. Then you have the choice in return to say thank you. However, you are not mandated to say thank you, but most Americans make the right choice by acknowledging it. We have had a real problem in the past few years in this country with people showing disrespect to others. And I'm sure that we all have seen this more than once in many different situations. People are losing respect more and more and showing it. The pledge is a reminder that we all have rights, that also comes with responsibilities for all. The pledge grounds us all more as citizens of this great USA. People want leadership orderly and structured, but not authoritarianism. There is a reason why the pledge is said before many, many venues where citizens gather from the beginning of this country. Why do we say the pledge? It shows traditionalism, value, and discipline and order. It is our roots that this country stands on. What the flag represents should not be taken for granted or forgotten. We need to do this not only for us, but for the generations to come. So the respect and remember what this country was based on. Back in the 2010-ish, when my oldest daughter was attending Fort Atkinson High School, she had forgotten something. So when I noticed it, I went to her classroom to drop it off. And as I entered the classroom, the pledge had started over the loudspeaker. Not one person, including the teacher, was acknowledging it. I was angry. I told her to stand and embarrassed her. After doing that, I realized that she would be singled out, peer pressure, exit, go on and on. And I was so wrong not to pursue it. That is what is happening right here in Fort Atkinson, all over the country. When we dismiss something as simple as the pledge, we become lazy and others follow, and it becomes something of the past, forgotten and not honored. Countries are destroyed by the lack of knowledge. I'm not sure if that's the right passage, but there's a passage, and that is so true. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next we had Bill Roloff signed up, but do you own? No? No. Okay, do you own property in town or anything? Do you own property within the city at all, or? Okay, you gotta be an actual city resident though, in order, so. Thank you. Next, then, we have Bill Shipley signed up.
My name is Bill Shipley. I live at 101 Sherman Avenue East here in Fort Atkinson. I don't have an elegant speech prepared. Some of the people who spoke before me were much more eloquent than I would be anyway, but I think that it's just common courtesy and respect and gratitude to say the Pledge of Allegiance. You don't have to if you don't want to, but we're very blessed to be in a country that gives us these freedoms. And I strongly urge you to adopt the pledge at the beginning of the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Terry Nelson.
Hi, I'm Terry Nelson. I live at 213 Sherman Avenue West here in Fort Atkinson. And I'd like to talk about the root of why we have the pledge, at least from what I was taught as a child. And I would also like to remind our city council members that our system of government is based on the Constitution of the United States of America, not the local Fort Atkinson, not Jefferson County. It is based on the United States government. We fought a civil war to maintain the cohesion and unity that state governments cannot trump, and that which the federal government holds under the Constitution. So when each of you took that oath of office, you took it to follow the Constitution of the United States. You swore to defend it, the same as our military does. Our military sacrifices mostly with their time and efforts, but also with their lives to secure those freedoms that are guaranteed under the Constitution. There are those of us who have lost a loved one still in our time, that we know people who have died fighting for our freedoms, and including, in my case, my uncle. So this is very near and dear to my heart. If you are against the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm sure you have many reasons, but I have to ask, why are you a politician? And I mean that with no disrespect. You're not here for your own reasons. You're here to represent us, the people, including our rights that are under the Constitution. Therefore, refusing to have the pledge, and of course, everybody who does not want to say it, that's their right. It signals, though, to the voters that you are not here to defend our rights, but you are here with your own agenda. That might sound harsh, but I can tell you that's what I'm going to be thinking, and I'm going to be wondering, what is your agenda? And I'll want to know, and I want to listen and be fair. But this pledge is much deeper than just willy-nillying, no longer having it. And it's not a place, it's not your place to not be standing up for us and our rights. The pledge does state under God. I understand people have issues with that. But fortunately, I will say that our country was founded under the blessings of God. Our morals are under God. God does not represent world religions. He represents an entity that many religions respect and recognize. If you do not have belief in God, you certainly can understand that there are those that do, and that it is part of our Constitution, and that you can respect others' beliefs in a higher power, just as we respect your belief that is not of God. We are divided in many ways, but we should not be divided in what our Constitution holds to be self-evident, what has been agreed on. As the Constitution states, we are endowed by our Creator. We have certain unalienable rights, rights to
Ask you
life
to Stop there.
and liberty. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
I'm obviously for the pledge.
Right, last signed up, we have Ron Martin.
Ron Martin, 409 Natick Drive here in Fort. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think that took 12 seconds. Certainly not very long and just a few simple words, but they speak volumes in affirming what we believe in as Americans. And I don't think it's too much to ask for the council to voluntarily say this at the beginning of each meeting and have others in attendance join in if they feel that they want to. Something that is very important, and me just saying the pledge now, nobody died. Nobody was fatally wounded or terribly offended. But there's a number of us, as you've heard in the community, that think it's very important that the council adopt this, and I would urge you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I will call for first call on Zoom of anyone. Second call for anyone following on Zoom that would wish to speak during public comment.
Right here, Kyle,
Okay, state your name and address, please.
John House, 104 Jefferson Street, Fort Atkinson. I admire the people that had the courage to get up for or against. It's a good thing that our country works in a right manner. I, of course, am for the Pledge of Allegiance. The only question I personally have is we got an amendment added to this, and I don't think that was run through the proper channels. We've had to go through 3 readings to get the pledge through, and this amendment seems to be only having like 2. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that part should go back and start over again to do the 3 readings for it and explain it exactly what it is. So with that, I thank you.
Thank you. I will call for one last call for any public comment on Zoom. Seeing and hearing none, public comment session is closed. Moving on to item 5, consent agenda. The consent agenda outlined below is hereby presented for action by the city council. Items may be items may be removed by from the consent agenda by the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president. I will just point out, I had someone reach out. According to the council minutes for the last meeting, it states that Bill Kaplan was in support of the pledge, and I believe that he was not. Not a problem.
I move to approve the consent agenda as listed items 5A through 5E with the correction to the minutes of the last council meeting.
We have a motion and a second. Any further? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, petitions, requests, and communications. Tonight we have none. Item 7A, review and possible action on the resolution adopting the Jefferson County Hazard Mitigation Plan by our Chief Peterson.
I don't have anything to add other than what I spoke about earlier. So staff recommends City Council formally adopt the Jefferson County Hazard Mitigation Plan through resolution to maintain eligibility for FEMA mitigation grants and to reinforce the city's commitment to community safety. Be happy to answer any questions.
I don't really have a question, but I have a great comment. I might be the only one that read every single page of this. No, but it was a great history. And also I really love to see how much collaboration there were between the steering committees and the county board. and how much thought went into it, especially the lessons learned from the 2008 flood. So I think this is a really good plan. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiments. This is a very large city council packet. This week, I think this was a couple hundred pages.
222.
Yeah, no, I agree
Yeah.
with your statements. Yeah.
I move to approve the resolution adopting the Jefferson County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7B, the third and possible adoption of the proposed ordinance amending section 2-53 of the City of Fort Atkinson Code of General Ordinances relating to the order of business for the city council meetings. Manager Hausman.
Thank you. So the proposed ordinance amendment makes two changes to the order of business for city council meetings. The first is to add the pledge, and the second is to codify the use of the consent agenda. At the city council meeting on July 1st, the council voted 4-1 to amend that proposed ordinance to move the general public comment period to the end of the agenda and to add a public comment period for matters on the agenda. So those are included in the proposed substitute amendment 1 that incorporates those changes from the meeting on July 1st, as well as adding the pledge and codifying the use of the consent agenda. When we were reviewing the proposed amendment to the ordinance as requested by the council at that meeting, we found another section of the ordinance that needed to be adjusted to accommodate that new public comment period. So that is an adjustment to section 2.54 sub F, and that is also included in substitute amendment 1. And that is simply clarification of the ordinance relating to the public comment, that the same topics that are currently prohibited for public comments, including political comments, matters relating to city staff, and matters that are not relevant to the council agenda. Those 3 items are still prohibited for both types of public comment period. And then and clarity that public comments for agenda items must be about agenda items, and then whereas public comments for non-agenda related items do not have to be. So we did, Attorney Westrick and I worked on this amendment together, and your packet includes the history of the ordinances and all the votes. That's all included in the memo. So staff does recommend that the city council adopt substitute amendment number 1, an ordinance amending sections 2.53 and 2.54 of the City of Fort Atkinson Code of General Ordinances relating to the order of business and public comments at city council meetings.
Yep. I'd like to make a few comments here. One is I've found to really enjoy the addition. Well, not, I guess enjoy maybe isn't the right word. But I found a lot of value in it. So the recommendation before us to add a public comment period for non-agenda items, I find this to be an acceptable compromise. It allows any member of the public to voluntarily share remarks, including reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, without the government formally placing the pledge on the agenda. Any council member who wishes to join or staff member who wishes to join would be able to do so, but participation remains entirely optional and personal. And this would respect both freedom of expression and the principles of limited government involvement in speech. I'd also like to address maybe some comments that had been mentioned earlier. The pledge is not in the Constitution or any of the amendments. So we all took an oath to support the Constitution of the United States, of which is, the First Amendment, which doesn't just give you the right to speak whenever or whatever you want. There are still limits on speech. So just as everyone had entered here today, there is a no weapons sign on the door. So one could not argue that their rights are being violated by entering these chambers with a weapon and expressing their Second Amendment rights. The City Council, we're here to conduct the business of the city. And during these meetings, we are allowed to put in reasonable restrictions on things. But what I'm saying, or what I'd like to do, is just highlight the fact that this non-agenda or the public comment period for non-agenda items will allow the public, for those that express they want the freedom to say the Pledge of Allegiance here in these council chambers, that would satisfy that need. I guess I'm not going to go too much further, but what I would propose first, and we can always add another motion on, but I move to adopt the ordinance amendment to amend sections 2-53 and 2-54 of the City of Fort Atkinson Code of General Ordinances relating to the order of business and public comments at city council meetings, implementing a consent agenda, and modifying public comment periods per the council packet. To be clear, this motion does not include adding the Pledge of Allegiance to the agenda with this motion.
I would be curious on I don't quite understand why what I've known for 8 years now as public comment now needs to be separated. Is there a purpose to that?
There's not a second.
Huh?
There's not a second yet for his motion.
I think we would need a second in order to start the conversation.
I'll second for purposes of furthering the discussion.
We have a motion and a second. We will go for discussion then.
Okay, I'm just curious what the purpose is. I mean, there must be some purpose because for 8 years it's been cool and sometimes non-existent. Not every council meeting even has any time spent on that. And I don't thoroughly understand that, but if it needs to be, it needs to be, but I don't get it, and I just would like some clarity as to why.
I would, from my understanding, right, is for a couple of reasons. One is so we can get the business of the city done, especially when we have, guests or contractors, et cetera, or, other individuals that the city works with, that their time here during our meetings can be slightly expedited, right? A few comments doesn't really take too long, but allows them to, focus on the business of the city. It allows that second period for non-agenda items for residents to express what they wish to express after those individuals have left. Additionally, what I do believe is that this codifies the ability for people to then speak about non-agenda items, to include saying the Pledge of Allegiance, whereas the way it is currently stated, worded, and I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but it is under the discretion of the council president to, I don't know if I'm wording this correctly, but keep the meeting, on order, on track.
Okay, I'm trying to read between the lines and understand you want to get onto the agenda and stuff like that for something that takes 15 seconds, doesn't slow it down. You want people to be able to say that in a separate public comment if they want to.
Yeah, so this kind of ties into my view on saying the Pledge of Allegiance. So again, we've made an oath to the Constitution. The pledge is not in the Constitution nor any of its amendments. One of the things that I believe that the First Amendment provides is the freedom, and again, there's a Supreme Court case dating back to, I believe, 1949, where the Supreme Court indicated that local, or government, whether it be local, county, state, or federal, cannot mandate or coerce speech. And what I do believe is that this public comment period for non-agenda items allows those who wish to have the Pledge of Allegiance spoken or recited during the council meetings to do so without the government putting it on agenda and then creating that compelled speech by proxy, which I've explained in previous meetings. So, and again, we've heard residents say, I will question and judge if you don't participate. That is by proxy. That becomes compelled speech by proxy, and I stand against that. But I hope that people can understand that by adding a public comment period for non-agenda items still allows residents to come up, say the pledge, and for you to participate without the government putting it on the agenda.
I will just add though that with the general public comment portion, If I do still read the ordinance here correct, it is still at the council president's determination to decide on what is appropriate. And those 3 bullet points of political topics of any nature, issues regarding or with city staff, and any subject not relevant to the interests of the city of Fort Atkinson do still apply to that section of general public comment. So basically just right now, all we're doing is separating it out that the first public comment, you can only come up and decide or talk on anything that is on agenda. The one that would be later in the agenda would be for anything else not listed on the agenda. So like I brought up at the last meeting, we had Mr. House or speak of some invasive species issues. That would be a topic that would have to wait until the end of the meeting to be brought up and discussed by him. So rather than being at the front of the meeting, and then that would allow sometimes a little more, if residents have concerns, they would come, they'd have to sit through the meeting to understand what we're really doing, where some meetings, other governing bodies, residents may show up, complain about something that's not on the agenda, not anything that can be done, and then would walk right out and not understand how the governing body actually runs their meeting. So this kind of gives some people that want to gripe about something, you have to sit through the meeting to understand what the governing body goes through in order to get some stuff done.
Does this suggest that a citizen would have opportunity to speak twice? Does it suggest that 4 or 5 citizens couldn't all take their turn and all say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Potentially, yes. I mean,
I don't see why not. That'd be
Then I
more time.
suggest it also defeats the purpose of expediting the meeting by having all this extra stuff and telling which person that their comment is in the wrong section. What person now can't say the pledge because somebody else said it first. We'll drag the meeting, we'll destroy the concept that we're speeding the meeting up, having one in the beginning who nobody's compelled to speak in. They can say it, they can sit and not say it, they can stand and not say it. I don't care. But the idea that that we're compelling them, there's no penalty for not saying it. And I think if we all said it just once and walked away from it, it'd be easier and more expedient to get in the meeting and to the agenda that the city wants to see done.
I have a question too. On the second public comment portion, was that specifically to address the pledge?
No, I mean, I didn't.
Or was that like
I
an
didn't make that
afterthought?
recommendation, but I do believe that provides an outlet.
Okay,
So,
that's what I was just curious if it was, because overall, what we're hearing from our citizens is that this is a reminder as leadership for us to say it. It's not about them coming to say it. And the overwhelming sentiment is that we need to not be ashamed to be proud of our country. And that this is one of those ways that we can do that. We have American flags on our police uniforms. We have flags on our fire uniforms and trucks and things. And there's the rule, not the exception, should be pride in our nation that's given us absolutely everything that we see around us, the opportunities that we have. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I don't quite understand your new motion. Could you just explain it to me?
I mean, that was part of the agenda item. All I'm doing is removing the pledge so that can be voted on separately.
Separately, okay.
Because I do support these 2 items.
Okay.
And that way I know that like I can demonstrate my support for it.
Okay.
Without having to vote no because there's something else I don't agree with on it.
Perfect.
So.
Yeah, but wait a second. So if we were to adopt this motion, then there would be no underlying motion that hasn't been amended.
Mm.
So if,
Understand that comment.
yeah, so if you're going to adopt the motion that is on the table, then there is no other motion pending besides that current motion.
Okay.
So
Well,
by rights, and if, just a correct or voice question there, if somebody wanted to go with just a pledge, they'd have to make an amending motion on that, and then we could go on to the other motion that Eric has presented.
Well, first we'd have to decide that right now there's a motion to amend with a first and a second. So we need to we'll vote on that, and then either it's going to take it back to the initial motion unless there is a new amendment.
So Attorney Westrick, just for clarification, the only motion on the floor right now is to adopt the three sections of the ordinance, not including the pledge. That is not an amended motion. That is a first, that is the main motion.
Well, I thought that Councilman Schultz made an amendment to the motion, an amendment to the ordinance that is at its third reading.
we're learning some procedure tonight.
Yes, we
Everyone
are.
gets to learn together.
I would assume that we need to move on a motion that's been made, but can we revisit that motion if we want to, table it for after the motion on the pledge? Because we're apparently going to need two motions to create two things.
Sure. First, we have to decide if you're going to accept or not the amendment that Councilman Schultz is recommending.
Which we're still discussing.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Because I do have other questions about that second.
That's fine. We're learning about procedure tonight. So I mean, we can get back on track if we need to. So we need to vote that one down and then revisit, remotion.
Okay. Well, I just want a little clarification on that second, and David, or Councilman Lesko here, that second public comment. I've watched probably a year and a half worth of council meetings, and there's very, very few where we have this amount of public comment. I think the ATV was, with the ATV agenda was the last one. So I'm just curious as to, how much this is really going to help. I know at the county level, it was really beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, we've already approved that part of it, so like, I don't know why to revisit that right now.
Well, no, we're
That's
voting
part-
to put it into the amendment, or I mean, to the,
I
Ordinance.
don't mind revisiting it, but I think it was like a tag along on the original, on the pledge. I think we should settle the pledge and then revisit even if it's right away tonight, I'm fine
Well,
with
I
that.
think they're all packaged together in one. If I'm correct, like it is the consent agenda, the additional public comment period, and the pledge is all part of this one agenda item. It's already packaged together. So perhaps if we'd like to separate them to vote on them individually, maybe that would have to be a separate motion that then goes on to next week or other meetings to lay out. So.
unless that could be done tonight. If David or Mr. Westrick, is that something that procedurally we can do? Is separate those three items and vote on them individually?
Well, there'd have to be individual amendments to the underlying agenda item. So yes, you could do that. We still have this pending amendment on the table, though.
Okay. I don't know what to do.
Okay, so I think I'd say the motion I had made was, I guess, different and unique than what was laid out on the agenda. So like my motion was a modification. We can vote that down and we can restart the conversation.
Or you could withdraw it.
Or
Yeah.
withdraw. Oh, is that a procedure? Okay.
Yeah.
I withdraw my motion.
Councilman Lesko here, do you second?
As the
that?
seconder, I'm
Okay.
okay with withdraw the request to withdraw the original motion.
Yeah, I would say, there's obviously three things in this one agenda. I would prefer to see these voted on separately. That way, if we disagree with the second public comment period, if we disagree with the consent agenda or the pledge, we can vote on those items individually. That is what I would like to see, but I will defer to my peers here, so.
I agree with you. I'd like to discuss them and I'd like to deal with them separately.
Not sure how to word it, but I move to separate the three portions of Amendment 1 to be voted on separately.
Second.
So what are the three portions?
Okay, you need that spelled out.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the consent agenda, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the addition of the second public comment.
Can you restate what your
The
motion
whole
is?
thing, okay. I move to separate out of Amendment 1 into three separate topics. The ordinance amending section 2.53 and 2.54 and adding the Pledge of Allegiance. Or which is section? I am so sorry.
Okay, so just I'll maybe offer some clarity here.
Thank you.
So section 2-53 is relating to order of business. There are
Okay.
4 potential amendments in section 2.53. The first is adding sub 3, the Pledge of Allegiance. The second is adding sub 4, which is the consent agenda. The third is changing sub 6, which is currently public comment, and changing that to public comment for matters on the agenda. The fourth is adding sub 12, or excuse me, sub 13, which is general public comment. So there are 4 relating to section 2-53. There is another amendment to section 2-54 sub F that under other says for general public comments, subject matters of speakers' comments is not limited to agenda items. For public comment for matters on the agenda, the subject matter of speakers' comments is limited to those agenda items. For any public comments, the following topics are prohibited: political topics of any nature, issues regarding or with city staff, and any subject not relevant to the interest of the city of Fort Atkinson. So there's actually 5 amendments that could be broken apart. 2-53 sub 3, which is the pledge. 2-53 sub 4, which is the consent agenda. 2-53 sub 6, which is amendment to the public comment period for matters on the agenda. 2-53 sub 13, which is the general comment period, addition of the general comment period. And then the amendment to section 2-54 sub F, which is clarification on what can be said at those 2 different public comment periods. So Councilmember Huckabee, if it is your motion to separate and each of those 5 matters, that I believe we could accommodate that through separate motions.
So move.
So that is a motion, Can
I do that?
No, a motion to separate substitute amendment 1 into 5 different matters on which to vote, of which I listed there 2-53 sub 3, the Pledge of Allegiance, adding the Pledge of Allegiance, 2-53 sub 4, adding the consent agenda, 2-53 sub 6, public comment for matters on the agenda, 2-53 sub 12, or excuse me, sub 13, general public comment. And then 2-54 sub F, which is the clarity for the public comments. So those are the 5 matters that Councilmember Huckabee wishes to separate. Is there a second on the motion to separate?
Yeah, I'm
those
just waiting for it to get
items?
caught up. Yes, I will second.
I won't be caught up.
Okay, we can take a second.
No, it's fine.
All right, so we have a motion, a second. Any debate on separating them out? Seeing none, all those in.
Hang on
oh,
a second.
okay.
Would just ask, because it's gotten a little messy now. And if or where would be an appropriate time to table this item so that we can get some further thought and consideration to something that's now become pretty convoluted.
So I think that you would be actually postponing discussion for a certain time. You would be moving to postpone discussion until, and then set a date. Tabling is typically used for later on the agenda, on tonight's agenda. So
And
if you postponed to a specific time, you'd have to tell staff what time that would be, and then also what you would expect to accomplish in the 2 to 3 weeks in between council meetings.
and it would, timing wise, would now be an appropriate time, or do we have to handle first anything that is on the floor right now?
Now is an appropriate time if that's the motion you want to make.
Yeah, I would move to postpone further discussion until the next scheduled city council meeting in order to review further what has been suggested and to digest it a little more further before making a final decision.
Did we get a vote on the prior motion?
No,
We had a
but
motion and a second to separate the items. We did not get a vote.
We didn't get a.
did we need a vote on the prior one, Wester?
No, if he's motioning to move it to a later date, we don't. It would remain open. But we need a second and then a vote on his motion to postpone.
Even though we have an open motion and second on the floor?
You can sit there as long as it wants.
Okay. We're all learning.
Yes, sorry.
So we have a motion to table it then. To
To
or
postpone to a later date,
To the next council meeting.
to
as
the
we
next
said.
council meeting. Okay.
Correct. All right, to the next council meeting.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
I think that could be very appropriate. That way we can separate them all on our agenda papers and be able to know exactly which one we want to talk about and what format. I like that, separating them and tabling it tonight.
Can we have a second at all, or?
I guess my question is, if we postpone, will we still be separating out the agenda, the recommended agenda item changes?
If you postpone, that stops debate on the matter.
Okay.
Right now, we have the motion, the first motion was to separate the items out and seconded, and then we have a second motion now pending a second to postpone to a later date. So
And I guess,
we could.
with
by
the
right-
first motion, that still gives us until the next council meeting, because to have them separated, it'll be in a packet. We can read through it, ask questions. Postponing it doesn't separate the agenda items.
Correct.
And so that would, so I guess I'd ask my fellow council member, David, is your intent, or like, would you also wish to see these separated at some point in time?
That I think would be the right way is we separate them because we have to go back through and reapprove each one then individually. So then after just throwing clarification out there, if it's separated, then you post after we vote to separate, then you can move to postpone to a later date. And then it wouldn't be on the next agenda as separated form.
I'm kind of seeing this as a lot of the work has already been done. I think there's just a couple of questions on that second comment period. So I think we could separate them, vote on them, and be done.
Though the matter of the second
Mhm.
public comment period was approved at the last meeting.
It was approved to be added to this amendment.
Correct.
With just one objection.
Correct. But there has been time that's passed since then. where people have made comments.
Either way, I do believe we still need a second to be fully legally debating this in between. And we can still call for a vote after that off of Davin's motion.
I think, well, I mean, technically, I think that any discussion that takes place after a motion is at one point considered a second. I would defer to Attorney Westrick on that point, though.
True. I thought I heard Councilman Schultz second this. I thought we are waiting for a vote as to the table, as to the postponing with a date and a time.
I seconded Councilmember Huckabee's motion
To separate
to separate the items within 7B.
Okay, so I think we're ready for a vote based upon the discussion we've had as to whether or not we're going to postpone. So that's the vote that should be taken.
All right, so.
Well, I guess I would just say that the motion to postpone is to kind of clear up all of the muddiness that we have going on right now. So I'm not certain exactly what how we would proceed this evening. And it would be the first time we would say, let's chop out all of the different parts of this. In fact, we got some criticism earlier that offering an amendment at the second reading was not an appropriate time to do it.
With that, I guess we have the motion to postpone to the next meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Or do we need a second on that? I believe we need.
I will second.
Okay.
Councilman Lesker.
Postponing the same scenario we got tonight to another meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have all of them together on one thing. Or separated.
They'll have to be voted on to be separated, I think.
But that's why,
Yeah.
that's where my clarification is. I believe we need to go off of the first motion to separate these items all out. And then after that, then we can take Davin's motion to postpone them all to the next meeting, correct?
No, I don't think that's where we're at. I think we have the motion to separate them all. Has had a first but not a second. We haven't voted on it. That would be stood still in time, and we would put that off to the next meeting if that's what everybody votes to. We would start at that exact same position.
Could Councilman Lesko modify his motion to postpone in order to separate out the agenda items at the next, and then to be voted on at the next council meeting?
Sure,
Or
if you
the
wanted to
council could
amend
just
his
take
motion. now.
action
We could
on
take
that.
action.
You can take action on the motion and the second to postpone. It doesn't mean it will carry,
We could-
right? But you would take action on the motion and the second before you right now,
Okay.
which is to postpone the item to the next city council meeting, which is August 5th.
Okay, that I second.
Okay. All right, so we have the motion and a second to postpone till August 5th meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Aye. Aye. So we carry.
Can we do a roll call for that, please?
Sure. Aye.
I was-
We will recall that for a vote, roll call vote.
So the motion, Councilman Lesko to postpone this item to the next council meeting, August 5th, seconded by Schultz. I will take a roll call vote. Council Representative Huckabee,
Aye.
Council Johnson,
Aye.
Council Lesko
Aye.
Council Schultz.
Aye.
President Jacob.
Nay. The vote does carry. This will be postponed till the next meeting. All right, with that out of the way. Item 7C, first reading of an ordinance to amend section 34-2 of the City of Fort Atkinson Code of General Ordinances relating to fire inspection, records, and reporting. Fire Chief Peterson.
Hello, this is the first reading of the ordinance to amend section 34-2 of the Fire Protection and Fire Prevention City Ordinance. The goal is to improve our fire code compliance by formally requiring electronic submission of inspection documentation and proof of correction of fire code violations. This change is needed to assist the fire department in our annual inspections, which is up to 700 per year of our local businesses and facilities. In addition to other housekeeping code violations, these inspections ensure fire protection equipment like sprinklers, alarms, extinguishers, and hood suppression equipment are properly maintained and certified annually. Currently, there's no formal requirement for businesses to submit that documentation or verification that the code violations have been corrected. This ordinance will grant the fire chief the authority to require digital submission of these annual inspections and to document verification of correction of code violations that we find on our inspections. There are a number of benefits to this. One is it increases accountability by making documentation part of compliance. It improves efficiency by reducing unnecessary visits of our staff made solely to track down paperwork. It enables better tracking and follow-up of deficiencies that require corrections and allows our staff to focus on high-risk occupancies and more serious code violations. There is no financial burden to the city nor the businesses for this. Businesses are already required to have an annual inspection by state code. This ordinance simply requires them to certify that by emailing us or showing us the documentation for that. In addition, there's no cost to the city. In fact, there'll be a cost savings of our staff time. If in cases of noncompliance, the department may impose a reinspection fee after we encourage timely follow through and help cover our additional costs of the re-inspections. So staff recommends that the city ordinance perform a first reading of the ordinance, amending section 34-2 of the municipal code, and direct the city manager to prepare it for a second and possible third reading at the council meeting on August 5th of 25.
I move to direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading and possible third final reading at the meeting on August 5th, 2025.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7D, first reading of an ordinance to create the section 18-82 of the City of Fort Atkinson Code of General Ordinances relating to certificates of occupancy for changes of use. Director of Neighborhood and Building Services, Drager.
Yes, thank you. This went before the ordinance committee in the past and was recommended staff present this for first reading for city council. This stems from situations where a particular business is moving into a new space that was previously occupied by a different use. An example of that would be a restaurant moving into a previously business occupied a space without anyone knowing. And then they move into that space and in a lot of cases, we are doing follow-up inspection on that. And in most of those cases, there's added cost for the business owner in those situations as they were not aware of some of the requirements of the building code, fire code, and similar codes. And they're being then having to backtrack and do those retrofits after already being in the space. The concept here is to require a certificate of occupancy for a change of use so that there is a clear procedure, a point of contact for them, which would be the Department of Neighborhood and Building Services, which would then coordinate the review of those certificates with the rest of the city departments. That would also aid a new business owner in knowing what they need to do to a space before they can legally occupy it. This is meant to clarify a lot of things for a potential business moving into a space. It is also meant to hopefully reduce costs for code enforcement and time spent by city staff in doing follow-up inspections on some of these situations. I'll take any questions, but staff does recommend performing the second reading and, performing the first reading ordinance, creating section 18-82 of the municipal code, and direct the city manager to prepare for a second, possible third and final reading at the council meeting on August 5th.
I did get some questions after the last ordinance meeting. Do you have an idea of how this is going to potentially push out the timeline for businesses?
This would hopefully shorten that timeline.
Okay.
And like I
Because they're
said, there
just
was-
worried there's more, more codes and things that they're going to have to get through in order to get up and running.
Yeah, the point is that they're already should be doing those, and what happens is city staff is approaching them after they've already moved into a space, and now they're still having to follow those codes and regulations, but after the fact.
Okay.
Whereas now you're causing significant delays in opening a store or a space because they're having to close what they thought they were opening, and then doing these follow-ups and conforming with the state codes that they're already should have been following. This
Okay.
is a way to head that off and give them some information before going through that process so they can go through the correct process and order, so that they know ahead of time what is going to be required for that space.
Which may make it easier to open up in
That
Fort.
That would be, and and hopefully it also reduces staff time on it as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
And does that allow for like temporary uses of a building? And I'm thinking like for me, would this apply to, I think of what the name of the building is, but on Janesville Avenue, the former office space that was repurposed as a gym that was then used temporarily for an occasion for the farmer's market, which then changed hands again. Would that make that process smoother to allow for like the temporary location for a farmer's market?
So there are temporary certificates of occupancy that are available in the similar process. It's shorter for, depending on the use, of course. You wouldn't be granting a temporary certificate of occupancy for something that requires significant changes to the building. But if there are similar uses, yes, there would be temporary certificates of occupancy that could go through that process.
And this ordinance would address.
This is particularly addressing permanent.
Permanent ones, yes.
Correct. But it does not restrict it from issuing temporary ones as well.
I will also just note that certificates of occupancy are currently required for all new buildings to ensure that all those new buildings are meeting their building plans and all the safety codes. And that also this is a very common practice among many municipalities that require these certificate of occupancies for changes of use. And as Mr. Drager indicated, many departments would be able to get this information, the key holder information, the after hours information, all of that stuff would be included in this occupancy permit and then shared among city staff so that different public safety departments and public works and folks know how to get a hold of the people who own the businesses or own the buildings in case of an emergency or if something happens after hours.
Correct.
So it would all be in one permit application.
Yep. In some instances, a business will move into a space. And like I said, if this would not impact anybody that is one business moving into another office space. This would be only for a change of use or a business occupancy, or excuse me, a code occupancy is how we view it. And then, as you said, yes, there are instances where this change happens and then there's no staff is aware of this until maybe 6-7 months down the road when they get their annual fire inspection and there's a new occupant in there using a different use. And then that's where that code enforcement savings hopefully comes in time for city staff, and then also costs for the new business are hopefully alleviated there because they would have known the process and the requirements prior to moving into that space.
I move to direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading and possible third final reading at the meeting on August 5th, 2025.
Second. We have a motion, a second. Any further questions or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And 7E, first reading of an ordinance to create section 1-16 to amend various other sections of the City of Fort Atkinson General Code, general ordinances relating to fees and procedures, re-inspections, and permits. Director Brigger.
Thank you. Yes, this is creating one main section, that 1-16 for reinspection fees, and then all those other creations and one amendment in there are just references in each one of the chapters that are referenced in this main ordinance 1-16 back to that 1-16. For anybody reading any of those other sections, they know where to look to see what is part of the ordinance. This here would be a new ordinance, and what it's directed at is reinspection fees for code enforcement. Currently, right now, the course of action is a letter of notice, letting them know the timeline and what the issue is. And then the only course of action there is a citation, which people find offensive, which is also very difficult to collect. Citations create an immense amount of time restraint on city staff, police, fire, depending on the code enforcement situation. And in most cases here, we're speaking of a very small percentage of the city where these actions are coming into play, where citations are actually given, where further action is actually taken. This is meant to provide an easier way for staff to address the situation with the particular property owner in a less costly way, as we will see. There's no fee in particular proposed here, but city council will be able to establish that fee on the fee schedule each year or annually. Currently, the citation is set by the current method, which is anywhere from $0 to $1,000 for a citation, depending on the offense. This would bring along a fee that is able to be assessed on the property, but it is only assessed, or it only charges them if they do not take that action after being noticed of typically a 30-day notice. And then if there is a reinspection conducted and that corrective action has been taken, then there would be no fee or no reinspection fee. It would only be that reinspection fee after the 30-day notice. There are shorter notices depending on the danger, I should say, of the situation. If there's a hazard to health and safety, those are most of the times those would be a little bit shorter of a notice, but for standard things, we're talking 30 days typically. And then that reinspection, if the code enforcement officer or the person doing that reinspection comes back and no action has been taken, that's where that reinspection fee would come into play. There's also a part of this ordinance that has, after a fourth reinspection fee, there is the ability to waive all the fees if that property owner or the person in the situation has met with myself or a staff member and come up with a plan to remediate the code enforcement. If they do come up with a plan that is acceptable and move forward, then there would be no fees assessed at all. There's also, in order to preserve due process for anybody who feels like they need to be able to plead their case, citations would still play a factor in here, where it would be an additional way for staff enforcement, but it will also provide that person the opportunity to plead their case and due process in that situation as well. And at that point, a judge would be able to make a determination on whether the code enforcement was valid or not.
Through municipal court.
Through municipal court, correct, yes. So as far as financial obligation for the city, there's not proposed to be a significant amount. It's actually proposed or plans to reduce costs for the city in ways of code enforcement and staff time. We also have an amount of citations that are currently outstanding from 2013, I think I have in there. there's a 13,000, almost $14,000 worth of citations that are outstanding, which that is staff time, endless hours of staff time, police enforcement, my office, Public Works time, all that has been put into those, which is virtually unrecoverable at this point, unless it rises. It's a very hard process to recover those. This would be putting the cost of that code enforcement solely on the person who is not following the ordinance, our city ordinances, instead of the general public, which currently, as you can see with the outstanding fees and the amount of staff time, the whole of the population of the city is bearing the cost of this at the moment, rather than the individual person that should be seeing some of the costs associated with the code enforcement action. With that, excuse me, getting a little dry in the throat. With that, I would welcome any questions, but staff does, we get to that so I can read it verbatim. Staff does recommend the city council confirm the first reading of the proposed ordinance and direct the city manager to prepare it for a second and possible third reading. At the formal, excuse me, I'll let you do the rest. I can't find the rest.
At the meeting on August.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I welcome any questions on it.
I haven't had a chance to look into this, but do other local jurisdictions have very similar things in their ordinance?
Yes, Whitewater, right next door to us, is using this process. They have had very good results with it. As I said, it is directed that, or not directed, but the fee is directed solely at the person who is receiving the code enforcement, rather than the whole of the public paying for the staff time or staff time being presented. And with the amount of times staff feels that would be saved on this, there should be a immense amount of time and money saved in staff costs. But as to your point, yes, there are other municipalities that enforce this and find it as a useful tool.
And we do have reinspection fees for building permits, right? So there's, Jed would inspect maybe you can give an example of when you use a reinspection fee for a building permit.
Yeah, I mean, a reinspection fee could be assessed. I don't do it each time, but it could be assessed. You're called for a final inspection and it's not near final inspection. And it's a extra time cost on staff and resources that could have been directed at another location. That can be assessed. I typically don't unless it's blatant, but they are present and they are currently on our fee schedule right now.
Yep. So there is a reinspection fee on the fee schedule already, and this basically extends that to these other sections, these other chapters of the city's municipal codes.
Yep. And to that point, this actually does allow for some discretion by staff as well. Whereas with the citations, that's a clear and cut process, 30 days, and then a tiered process for citations. And that is laid out in our zoning ordinance. This would allow for some discretion and interaction with the actual resident or property owner.
No, you said this still does allow for the due process scenario.
Citations do still stay in place.
Okay.
So that same process that I spoke of is in place and does remain. This is just creating an alternate way for enforcement, but still does allow for that due process and doesn't involve citations.
Okay.
The other thing that this ordinance does is, and Mr. Drager referenced the fourth, the fourth reinspection fee. So that waiver, fourth reinspection fee waiver. So that does allow a due process for that as well. If you've gotten a notice that says it has to be fixed in 30 days, and then we go out and reinspect and it's not fixed, that's a reinspection fee. If we come out a week later, it's still not fixed, there's another reinspection fee. Obviously there could be some sort of circumstance where the person wasn't getting those or some sort of, so at the fourth, the person would potentially request a waiver and meet with our staff and talk through a plan, and then all of those fees could potentially go away if they get to have an abatement plan that's approved by city staff. Again, our goal with this is compliance. It is not being punitive. It is not trying to charge all the people, all the things. It's compliance.
And it would not necessarily have to go through municipal court in order to waive those fees. If you had somebody who got several
Correct. This could be
notices, you
handled
could-
at the staff level, yes.
I move to direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading and possible third and final reading at the meeting on August 5th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8, reports of officers, boards, and committees. 8A is city manager's report. Manager Hausman.
Thank you. On July 4th, the Horde Museum held its annual ice cream social. Over 800 people attended the free event. Thank you to all of the staff, board members, volunteers, and participants who made the event successful. We're looking forward to next year's event, which will be the 50th annual ice cream social on the 4th of July. Lots of ideas on what we can do 50 of for that. But that's very exciting. The Jones Park batting cages were recently completed by the Parks and Recreation staff. The project was accomplished through the extraordinary efforts of staff and the community. Some of the many donors and supporters include the Fort Atkinson Community Foundation, the Lloyd Kniffel Memorial Fund, the Fort Atkinson High School or School District Athletic Department, the Generals Baseball Team, W&A Distribution, Century Equipment, Fort Youth Baseball, Junior Blackhawks Baseball, and multiple others. So these batting cages are free to use and open to the public, so I encourage everybody to use them. The city held its annual employee appreciation picnic last week to thank city staff for their hard work each and every day. Thank you to Mabel Schumacher, who was our guest of honor and who donated cookies for the event. We had a bags tournament, which was won by our most professional bags players, Josh Crandall and Dan Shanelaber, and lost by the rest of us. But we did have a great time, and I appreciate everybody who participated. On July 11th, representatives from the city, Artisan Graham, Thrive ED, and the Wisconsin Development Partners attended the closing on lots 12 and 13 in the Clement Business Park. The new property owner has a concept plan approved by the Plan Commission and will move forward with formal site and building plans over the next couple months, with construction scheduled to begin in early 2026. As of Friday, the city had accepted offers to purchase for all 6 lots in the Maple Grove subdivision. Closing for those lots are scheduled, one at the end of July and then the other 5 in August, with the goal of construction beginning later this fall. Last night, the City Council held a public listening session relating to fluoridation of the city's public water system. At that meeting, the council directed staff to continue the current practice and to monitor state and federal guidelines and recommendations. I want to thank everybody who participated in that listening session. On Thursday and Friday of this week, I will be in Stevens Point at a League of Wisconsin Municipalities Board meeting and strategic planning session. We will be pre-planning legislative efforts for the 2027-2028 legislative session and already looking forward to the 2027 to 2029 state budget with the goal of addressing sustainable local government funding. The groundbreaking event for the Ridgeview Lofts apartment building in the Ridgeview Estates subdivision will take place on July 23rd at 10 a.m. on site. We're thrilled to take part in this exciting event celebrating the culmination of years of hard work by numerous elected and appointed officials, members of city staff, and our development partners. There will be a community open house at the new Public Works and Parks Operations Facility located at 600 Talcott on Friday, July 25th from 4 to 6. All are welcome to tour the new facility and have refreshments. The landscaping and fencing are expected to be complete, so we hope to show off the final result of that project. Thank you to the City Council and the public for your support for the project, and thank you to Tom and Ben and your teams for the hard work and preparation. I will note, we've gotten some feedback on this lately, so I will note that no electronic waste is accepted at the Department of Public Works and Parks Operations Facility. So don't bring your e-waste with you to the open house, but you can take it to the compost site at the end, east end of Bark River Drive on Wednesdays from 3 to sunset and Saturdays from 9 to 3. And please do not dump e-waste anywhere, ever. There will be no Plan Commission meeting on July 22nd. And please note that there is a 5th Tuesday in July, so the next City Council meeting will be Tuesday, August 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9, unfinished business. 9A is review and possible action relating to the updated invoices from We Energies for gas and electric installations at Ridgeview Estates. City Manager Hausman.
Thank you. So on May 20th, the council reviewed and approved some invoices from We Energies to provide gas and electric services to Ridgeview Estates. Since that time, they've reevaluated their plans for both gas and electric. Their new plan for gas requires boring to install underground pressurized gas pipe. And the previous plan included trenching, which was less expensive. And the new plans for the electric service include service to the multifamily building on the south side of Trillium Drive. That lack of design, I think, was an oversight on the part of the We Energies team. And as I've noted a couple times, the We Energies group has some sort of an interesting dividing line that different teams are in charge of different projects on different sides of Trillium Drive. So it's been a little complicated, but the updated gas service plan, the proposed cost is $93,828.35, which represents an increase of $22,120 over the previously approved cost. And that cost is reimbursable at the rate of $4,091 per unit within the first 5 years of development. The updated electrical cost is $269,984.03, which represents an increase of $9,380.82 over the previously approved cost. And those funds are reimbursable at a rate of $1,757 per unit within the first 5 years of development. So there is a table in your report that summarizes all of this, what the estimated cost was of this project was in 2024, what the approved cost was in May of 25, and then the proposed cost, which is $31,582 more than what was approved by this council in May of 2025. All those funds are reimbursable. However, I would not expect, especially the electric, to be fully reimbursed just due to the lower reimbursement rate and the higher cost of the electric. I will just remind the council that the development agreement in place with Intrepid Investments for the Ridgeview Estates subdivision does include that it's the city's responsibility to provide gas and electric service to the subdivision. And that was approved by the city council in 2024. We are proposing to use funds from TID 9 to pay for this increase in cost. And so we are requesting that the city council authorize the issuance of an additional check for $31,500.82, representing the total additional cost of the two updated invoices. So I'd be happy to answer questions. We do recommend that the city council approve the updated invoices from We Energies for projects 503-1866 and 503-1867 to provide gas and electric service to the Ridgeview Estates subdivision in the amount of $31,500.82.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further debate? Just have one question. We still don't have an idea of what reimbursement amount we might see out of the apartment complex, right?
No, and that they are actually bringing three-phase. They have a cost to bring the three-phase to their apartment, to that apartment building. And they might be getting some reimbursement as well.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other debate or questions, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9B, review and possible action relating to the final plat for the Ridgeview Estates Phase 1, Neighborhood and Building Services Director Drager.
Yes, thank you. I feel like this one has been a long time coming, but I'm happy to bring this forward. The Plan Commission reviewed and recommended approval on January 28th and May 13th of this year. There were some recommendations on that, which I'll read those off. There was some, and I'll tell you where we're at with each of those. Requirement that the zoning map amendments are approved with alignment with the proposed preliminary plat. Zoning, as we know, the zoning map amendments for the subdivision have been approved by city council here. There is also a requirement for all the lots within the subdivision to share equal interest in the stormwater outlots 2 and 3 as part of this final plat, which is phase 1 of 2 phases for the overall final plat. That that recommendation has been included, that the Outlot 2 list shown on this final plat is held in equal shares with each of the potential property owners or each of the individual lots. That does two things. At one point in time, the outlot was dedicated to the homeowners association, which, as we all know, homeowners associations can cease to exist, which then it would fall back on the city to maintain. Plus, our ordinance in our land division does require that it is held by each of the individual property owners in fractional ownership. So that was included on the revision and on this final plat, at least this phase of it. Require all utility easements to be shown on the final plat. The utility easements have been included on this plat. Those were, as we can tell or all know, that they have changed and been tweaked along the way. This is your final version of those. There are also easements for those for stormwater through some of the property or behind some of the properties and for some of the paths of the stormwater that allow for a city to maintain those in the case that they're not being properly maintained by the property owners. That's necessary to make sure that those are being maintained in a way that they function the way they were intended. And then also, this final plat is substantially similar to the preliminary plat, and that is why it is in front of you. Financial analysis, this allows approval of this final plat, or at least this phase one of it, represents a continued step towards implementing the residential development. And in the development agreement, there is a per unit payment to the city from the developer. This will facilitate moving forward with continued development in the area. Just a little background, the reason this is phase 1 of 2 for the final plat. The Banker Road realignment is still under design with the DOT. So this phase excludes that Banker Road realignment and the associated lots alongside of it. So this incorporates the rest of it, and that's the reason for the first phase of this. Staff does recommend that the city council approve the Ridgeview Estates final plat with a couple of conditions. There's a couple notes here that are minor from staff's view. One is adding a note of compliance. There's a westerly line and an easterly line of lot 19 and 40. One of the measurements was incorrectly stated, one was missing. They are clerical for the most part and can be corrected on the final version for signature and confirmed by staff. But once again, with those recommendations, city staff does recommend approval of the final plat. And I'd welcome any questions.
Any questions for?
I move to approve the final plat for Ridgeview Estates Phase 1, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further debate or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 10A, new business, review and possible action on sewage pumps, emergency repair at the police department. Chief Bump.
I can tell everybody's been on pins and needles in anticipation of this agenda item, so I'm going to get right to it. The police department, unfortunately, the sewage pumps, which are like sump pumps that are in our basement, went out, both of them at the same time, and made the building smell awful. I came into work on June 5th to find the building fully filled with sewage, the smell of sewage. And we were able to determine it was coming from the sumps that pump sewage out of the building because the building is lower than the sewer lines in the building. So they have to have pumps to pump them out. Those pumps are original to the building, so they're 24 years old. And it was a little outside of my normal police chief superpowers, something I don't know a lot about. So we brought in our sewage professionals in the city to come take a look, and they said, yeah, this is a plumbing issue. You need to get someone here quick. So we reached out to a plumber that we commonly use across the departments in the city, and they confirmed where that smell was coming from and why it was occurring. So needed to get fixed as fast as we could get it. Unfortunately, the pumps were going to take a few days. worked with the city manager to make sure I was kind of aligned with how I should move forward with an emergency repair and a purchase that is over our normal amount that we would spend without getting quotes. So followed everything through according to policy and got them fixed as soon as I can. I don't often come before you after I've already spent the money and after we've done the repair, but I'm here today to follow through on the requirements. So we're good with auditors at the end of the year. And I'm open to any questions that you might have.
I'm glad you could fix it quickly. That's not one to dawdle on. I move to approve the emergency repair replacement by Dunkelberger Plumbing in the amount of $12,000 be applied to the police department's building supply and repair account.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Item 11, claims, appropriations and contract payments. 11A is review and possible action relating to the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorized payment. Clerk Hubbard.
I move to approve the verified claims as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or debate? This is a roll call vote.
Council Huckabee,
Aye.
Council Johnson,
Aye.
Council Escalher,
Aye.
Council Schultz.
Aye.
President Jacob.
Aye, motion carries. Item 12, miscellaneous. The city council will adjourn into closed session pursuant to state statute 19.85 sub 1 sub E to conduct other specified business where competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session in terms of the city fire EMS agreements with town partners.
I move to convene in closed session pursuant to state statute section 19.85 1E to conduct other specified business where competitive or bargaining purposes require a closed session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned to closed session. Thank you, everybody.